I studied other things besides art, but one of my jobs was at the Fine Arts Library, and so part of the job was like putting the books back on the shelf, but what I would be in like in those aisles, like just like look, flipping through all these books, like learning about all these artists and reading, and so yeah, it's just something I've always just really enjoyed, and it just felt natural to me.
That's awesome. So ever since you were a kid, like you kept this with you, and I know you went to law school, and at the same time you were producing, like, but for you, I guess, or
Yeah. So I'll rewind to like 2005. Like at that point, it's like, okay, I know I want to be an artist, but um, I'm conflicted, because I know that at that time I felt like, well, I know I want to, please my parents and my family, and I want to make something of myself. That was my thinking. But I was like, okay, but I really want to be an artist. So like, in 2005, like I really started pursuing my art. Like, and I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know anyone, even though I've lived in Austin. I didn't really know anybody as far as like the arts community. So I just kind of just had my own art show. And I sold some work, but I was telling myself, okay, let me just have this art show, and maybe I'll make it so I'll be so successful that I won't have to go to law school. And I had the art show, and I mean, it was a good reception for someone that's just new and starting, but of course it wasn't like, it wasn't like, oh, like you're set, as an artist, you're gonna go to law school. And during law school, like I was in law school in Houston at Texas Southern University, but and during law school, like I, found myself really still painting a lot, just as a break from like, the law books, and also like I did an internship at a law firm here in Austin, and when they found out I was an artist, like they had me doing like commissions, like of like portraits of like the partners' kids and stuff like that. So I was making extra money that way.
nice.
I feel like, I mean, law school, sometimes I feel like it was a very expensive mistake, but the positive side is like just being in Houston and and meeting people in that art scene there, and I got to show my work there in Houston eventually, and I got to meet like artists like Robert Pruitt back then, and it was just really encouraging, meeting those artists down there.
Yeah, and it does brought up like your connections, and now if you want a lawyer, you can just do it. Yes, it seems very practical. And yeah, the important thing is that you knew what your passion was and you kept at it. That's awesome. And that's such a good a good way for people that are not sure of what to do to see like, yeah, it can happen. You just have to keep at it. So while you're doing all of this, how do you develop your brand? It's so, your style and your brand are so distinctive and unique. I'm curious if this took a long period or if it was constantly your vision.
I think it was always there, but I think for me, like when you say brand, like what you see is really just me, just being the most me that I can be, just playing up, my favorite parts of myself. But there was a time, even going back to the law school days and before then, like I was, I guess a little shy to show like the full, I guess the breadth of myself. Like I guess I still don't know what it is, but like I was always someone that was kind of weird, in high school. Just I'm a weird person. I just didn't. I always felt like an outcast, like never fitting in. But then as I've gotten older, I realized a lot of the things I was worried about, like those don't really matter. So now I'm just really just enjoying just fully just being myself and just trying to show people through my art like what's some of what's in my head. And so that's what you see.
Thank you. And does this aesthetic, is it still changing, or are you more interested on placing like that vision into different media?
I would say both. I think it's always going to be evolving. Even now, I have some different things that I want to do and that I plan to do. And I definitely want to experiment more with different media. When was it? A couple of years ago, like I was part of the crit group with the Contemporary Austin, and so that was a chance for me to kind of present my experiments, in front of a group of people to critique it. So, like for example, one of the things I've always wanted to do was video work, and so I got to show people my video, and that encouraged me to continue doing that. So so yeah, I think I'm always going to be evolving and trying new things.
Cool. And can you tell us a little bit of your process of experimenting? Like how do you experiment?
For me, I experiment by just breaking out of my box of what I usually do. For example, earlier, was it this year? I can't remember if it was this year or maybe late last year, but in the past few months, one of the things I tried was making a mask. I made a plaster mask, and I never messed with plaster before. But I was like, well, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna make this mask, and it's was for a mask show in San Antonio. So I just bought the plaster and kind of did some research online, and and it was the mask was like it's of my face, so I got a little bit of help and put like Vaseline all over my face, then put the plaster strips on, and at first I was like really scared, but it was like, but once it was done, it's like, okay, this may not be the prettiest, but this was fun. Like I could see myself doing more of that. So yeah, just trying new things, even if I'm not good at them. Just getting my hands dirty, really.
Yeah, shout out to Essentials Creatives that they're the ones that curated the show in San Antonio. I was oddly part of that as well. So yeah, it was a very nice ensemble, and shout out to them. That super supportive and good team. And I love it. That's those accidents are just those taking risks and getting out of your comfort zone. Like usually do pay back so well.
Yeah.
It's and more when. And that's why I was going back to your style or your brand. Like, I feel like when you have that clear of a vision, if you implement it in different media and in different things, like, yes, things are going to be technically maybe not perfect, but the vision's there, but your voice is there. And that's what's most important, I think. And even more so in your case, where your voice becomes louder and louder every time. So what risks are you interested in taking? Like, are you like trying to come and talk right now about our current situation with pandemic, or are you interested in just more materials, or what are some risks that make you excited?
It kind of goes back to back to the experimentation, like just trying new things that I didn't know were going to work. Another is just one thing I've talked about before is just like fear. That's something that has held me back a lot, and is something that that I continue to work on. But one way that I take risks is just getting over that fear, or just pushing through that fear. And usually when on the other side, it's like, what was I so worried about? It's fine. Like even like right now during quarantine, one of the things I'm doing is like learning how to skateboard. It's something I've always wanted to do, but it was just like I don't know. I just didn't know. I didn't know that I could, or if it was for me. So I've been doing that for the past few weeks, and like a few weeks ago, I didn't even know how to stand on a skateboard, but now I can kind of push down the street a little bit, and so I don't know, it's just really fun, and maybe there's some way I could somehow incorporate that into my art practice. I don't know how, but it just feels like it's just good for me, like mentally, just to try something new and challenging. It's been a long time since I've tried something that was like that challenging for myself. So yeah, just as far as risk taking is just a matter of just doing it, just doing it.
Yeah, so putting yourself in different situations and that'll inform your art basically.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, and I saw you're doing the skateboard on social media, and I when I was little, like I really loved it, like skateboarding. But I'm super clumsy, so my husband like he keeps telling me like just please don't do it. Like you're the first time you're gonna break it, but
Yeah.
gonna break something. But yeah, I saw you and I was like, I think it's time to go back to the skateboard.
Definitely fallen several times. That was the scariest part. Is like oh god, I'm gonna fall, but the falls haven't been too bad so far.
That's awesome. And speaking on social media, that it's such a particular tool. How you're kind of active on social media. How does that play in your practice?
Yeah, social media has been like really important for my practice. Part of that reason is because I feel like I don't really have the traditional art background that a lot of people have, and so I think that makes I don't have like any kind of like institution like behind me. So social media is like really important for me to be able to just get my stuff out there into the world. And this goes back, I mentioned like pursuing being an artist back in 2005. So this goes back to like the MySpace days. Like when I was in law school, I would post my art on MySpace, and that's how I met another artist who ended up mentoring me like in Houston, and he introduced me to a bunch of other artists, and that eventually led to like my first group show that I got to do in New York. And then in present day, like Instagram is just really an important way for me to like just get my stuff out there and definitely still meet like curators and collectors, and just show people a bit of my process. So it's really important for me as an artist.
Yeah, and do you have any good advice on how? Because you're also like you have it super professional and like it's more artistic than personal, I believe, but with some touching here and there. Can you tell us more about how you handle social
Yeah,
media?
I would say, well, if you'd asked me this maybe like a couple years ago, I would say like every artist should get on social media and share stuff. But now I feel like really not every artist needs social media. Like I feel like I need social media, but not everyone needs it. So and you don't have to get on, but if you want to and it's something you want to try, I think it's worth giving it a shot. Like one thing that people enjoy. That I do is like sometimes just showing some behind the scenes, sharing a bit of the process. Like, a couple of years ago when I was getting ready for that Punk Noir solo show at the Carver, like, for months I just spent time, like every day updating people on my progress and just showing people, how I'm doing things. And I feel like, people kind of start to, build a connection, because they can relate, to what you're doing, and maybe they learn something and ask questions. So I haven't been as active as I was, but I think I'll be getting into it more, slowly ramping up a bit more. But yeah, and some artists like okay. I would say like you just show what you are comfortable showing. Some artists may just show like maybe they don't want to show the process, but maybe just finished work. Post piece after piece. And that's okay too. But I would just say it's just important to just be consistent, which I'm not always consistent, but be consistent, and eventually I think you can grow a community around your work.
Yeah, it's so important, the engagement part of it. But at the same time, like I've seen sometimes when I'm looking for specific artists, like I go on Instagram or whatever, and it's just selfies. And it's like, no, we want to see your work. But at the same time, if it's all work, you don't really get the personality. And yeah, I've seen that people need to know a little bit about you and what you're involved with. And what are your interests and likes and stuff,
Yeah.
and then like yeah, plus if they like your work, like they feel some kind of connection, and it's I guess it's easier to buy from someone that you feel like you're connected to in a way. And do you get sales and stuff from Instagram or for social media?
Yeah, like definitely. People, will see something that I'm working on, like, like, or sometimes they'll say like, I'll post a finished painting and they'll say, like, Dawn, like I've watched you, work on this painting from the beginning. Like if I posted the process and I just love, love this piece, and then they, want to purchase it, so it's definitely, for me, it's been a good way to, connect with collectors.
And it's a good like direct link instead of, do you also have a gallery that represents you?
No, no,
Yeah.
just independent.
Yeah, which is like super handy to have it on the power of your cell phone, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And what I've experienced, and I don't know if that will change in the future, but for me personally, like I feel like I have had more success at selling my own work than galleries have at selling my work so far. I just feel like I'm better able to, represent myself at the present moment. That's just how it's been.
Yeah, and the whole engagement, like letting us see a little bit of your life and your process and who you're inspired by. Yeah, I'm sure that plays a huge role on it. And speaking about those people that you paint, do you know all these people? I know a few of them, but do you actually have a connection with your subjects, your muses? Can you tell us a little bit more about them and you?
Yeah, I would say, especially nowadays, like I definitely paint people that I have met, or like people, like for in the like, for example, going back to the Pumpkin War show, like it's it was all other creatives, people that are my friends, and people that I feel inspired by, what they do, and I just felt like I wanted to have their presence as a piece of art. And now that hasn't always been the case, and that may not always be the case. Like sometimes, like in the past, I painted people that, like I knew I wanted a certain look for a painting, so I just found a model to pose for me. So they came and posed for the work, and then they leave, and then that's it. I don't really have any kind of like relationship, but yeah, mostly I paint people that I know, and I want to just capture their presence. And while I have the painting, then I always have them around.
That's awesome. And what other things inspire you? Like how do you come up with the concept of a painting or a project?
So I've always just loved just looking through fashion magazines. Like I mentioned, I grew up in Lubbock, Texas, which is like a pretty small city, way, kind of isolated from the big cities in Texas. And so I just always wanted to see more of the world. And so I feel like magazines were sort of a way for me to do that. And this was during like my late childhood and teen years. So so I feel like that was during the time where it was like formative time for me. So I don't know if that's why I go back to images from like the 90s or something like that. But I just love to look at like how they do the ads and how they're trying to sell this image to people. And so I try to use some of that in my art practice. So a lot of times, like I'll just like pull an image from a magazine and then try to get someone to do a pose like similar to that. And also, I'm inspired by, even since high school, I've been inspired by like the work of Andy Warhol, just the idea of, I guess a lot of his work, he kind of explored the idea of like celebrity, but for me, it's like, I like to represent the people that are, respected, locally, like around Austin or, Dallas or, wherever. So yeah, I'm just inspired by people and fashion photography and advertising. Also find inspiration in poetry. Like my favorite poet is Audre Lorde. Like for example, like one of my favorite poems by her is like the Black Unicorn, and it's about someone that's part of it's about like pushing it back against like societal expectations. So yeah, just lots of different sources inform that.
That's awesome. And like all the things that we're living today, does isolation and does having to adapt a little bit, well, a lot, like has that changed your process at all?
Yeah, with this quarantine thing, I've been going through several stages. Like at first, I was, even though it was a scary time for the world, but at first I was like happy to just be at home all the time because I feel like at least I thought like I pretty much live somewhat isolated. That's just how I am. So it's like, okay, great. Now I don't have to have an excuse not to go to any event anymore. We have to stay home. But then after a while, it's like, well, I do, even though I'm like a deep introvert, like I do need connection to people more than I thought, so it's like, man, this is hard. But one of the ways that it's affected my work is, now I can't bring people into my studio to pose for me. So I've been experimenting with more like self-portraits where I just kind of just pose, for myself. And so there's definitely going to be more of that in my, upcoming work. And also like when the quarantine first began, like I did have a bit of heightened anxiety just about like, well, whoa, are my basic needs going to be met? And so I just really wasn't in the mood to like create work, for a long time. But eventually I did a few drawings, and that was fun because I had been mostly focusing on painting for the past few years. So it was good just to kind of go back to sort of the origins of where I started making work. And so I did some drawings, and I'm starting to feel, more myself now.
Yeah, it has taken a while. I also was very, very happy to be at home and not being on at all times. But yeah, it's a whole trip for sure. And by now we kind of need to adapt because God knows how long it's gonna keep going. Okay, and can you show us your jacket, the jacket that you have?
Oh yeah, sure. Let me get off this.
I'm just looking at it and I'm just so curious. And I saw some photos, but I really, want you to show it.
Here's the front, and this was, I said, part of my Pump the War show. So the patterns, a lot of the patterns are uli designs that are based in Nigeria. Like there are these women that like for centuries that have drawn these patterns like on like walls of like stone walls of homes and things like that. So the symbols, just mean different things. And then, so here's the other side. And some of the patterns kind of match what some of the people were wearing for the Pump the War paintings. Like one of the paintings was Moya, which is like a green painting with copper leaf on it. And so he's also Nigerian, and he wore this, what do you have? I think he had a shirt, I think, that had patterns on it. So I kind of took this from the patterns of like what he was wearing. And then here's the back, which is, it's like basically kind of like a recreation of one of my, of a yellow painting I have called Rage. so that I have the same person like on the back, and I've got spikes. And that speaking of experimentation, like that was my first time like dealing with spikes, and that was really fun. Like I bought this little, I don't know what you call it, but this clamp that you pierce the leather, and then you can screw the spikes in. But yeah, so yeah, that's it. I really want to make more of these jackets though.
I was gonna say, how do you do a lot of clothing? Do you go back to fashion in other ways than painting?
So when I was a student at UT, like even though I got my degree in psychology and my minor was fashion design, I took way more fashion and design classes than I needed for the minor because I really enjoyed that. And so during that time, like I, learned how to sew and make patterns and, all that. And so I really would like to, eventually I would like to get get a sewing machine and brush up on my sewing skills and actually like really like make make garments somehow. So I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but I would like that to happen like within the next year or so. But for now, I mostly paint on clothes, and part of my inspiration for that is an artist who I met in New York. Her name is Donna Dove, and she's like a fashion designer and artist, and she was showing me like she does wearable art, and part of that sometimes is like taking existing clothing that she bought and like either sewing it to other pieces of clothing or painting on it. And she would just say like, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. You could just take something that's already made and then just really make it your own. And so that's what I have been doing with like painting on clothing. But yeah, I really would love to make clothes eventually.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun. And because you have already your style and your brand and everything, it would be a very easy transition from collectors and maybe people that cannot afford like a big painting, like maybe they can have something that they can wear. Yeah, put me on the list for one. Okay, and I also know you have a few shows on hold and that have been moving because of the current situation. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, so as for I guess all of us, like 2020 really did not pan out how I thought it was going to pan out. Like for example, like I had my Punk Noir had toured to Dallas and it opened in January there, and the show was to run basically through March. And I'm glad that people did get to see the work in late January and then all through February, because then obviously we have to just shut it down early, and so people couldn't come see it. And then I was in another show that opened in late February in Grand Rapids, Michigan, at the I maybe say this at the Urban Institute of Contemporary Art. It was one of my big punk noir paintings called Roshi. It's purple. And so the show opened. I didn't get to go up there, but the show opened and had a nice reception. And I was excited about more people being able to see the work. But a couple weeks later, like everything was shut down. So unfortunately, not many people got to see it. So that was sad. And then I was going to bring my punk noir show to Lagos, Nigeria. I was going to bring a version of that there that would have opened in August. And my plan was to, fly to Nigeria and spend some time there and even begin work on, some new art as well while I was there. But obviously, I'm not going to be able to go to Nigeria right now. So the show is on hold, and I'm not sure when we'll be able to do it. I don't know if maybe next year or something. And I have a show that is coming up, a show in Seattle that's curated by Robert Pruitt, and I'm going to show the drawings that I made during quarantine. And I think the show was going to be earlier, but just I guess back in March we thought we would be good by July. But
oh yeah, I was sure it was going to be 2 weeks tops.
Yeah. So, but here we are, in I guess almost August, and so that show got pushed to September. And I think the show is still going to happen. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but I was really looking forward to going to Seattle because I went there last year for the first time, and I really enjoyed it because I like to eat. So they have so much good food up there, seafood and all that. But even if the show, the show is going to happen, but we don't have the exact date. But I'm not going to get to go up there to Seattle, so that's unfortunate. So yeah, and other than that, I have a couple of shows that I'm gonna be in, but it's just the dates are just sort of iffy, just playing it by ear. So
yeah, a lot going on, but that's so excited. I cannot. It sucks, but at the same time, how exciting it is that your punk noir it's traveling so much and to all these different places. I'm so proud and happy for you. Are you excited, like taking all of this into consideration, knowing that things keep moving for you and you keep growing and your audience keeps getting larger? Like, are you excited about the future?
yeah, I would say that I'm excited about the future. I mean, other than like the show that I mentioned that I have in September, like I really have no concrete plans for the future. I know I'm going to be, I'm working on a new series of work that's not totally concrete yet, but I'll be able to show it to people, in the next few weeks. So I'm excited just to show people like a fresh set of paintings and other things. And I'm going to be, as we talked about, I'm going to be experimenting more with fashion for sure. So I'm like really excited about that. That's just going to be just so much fun. So, things are definitely uncertain for the future, but I'm definitely excited about it. Oh, are you on? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry. You mentioned a few people in our conversation, like Robert and Moyo. And can you tell us about your community? Who are this? Who do you surround yourself by? Like, because I get that you get inspiration from people and attitudes and like just all the energy from people. Can you tell us about your immediate community?
Yeah. So I would say, okay, so it's kind of complex because for me, like I my art is inspired by people. I like to paint people, and I like to create things that people can wear. But if you say like immediate, like I would say like 90% of the time, like I'm just by myself because I'm not very good at socializing with people. I'm just yeah, I'm just not good at that. Like good at talking with people and so so I just end up just by myself a lot. And that's something that's made it really difficult as an artist because just like with any other career, like you need to be able to network and get out there and people know about different opportunities that you may know about, or sometimes you just need help. And so that's definitely something that's been very difficult, just having that, I guess, social anxiety. I mean, it's definitely something that I am currently working on, but I don't know if I'll ever be where I would like to be on that. But I do have, a community of artist friends, like even, here locally, for example, like, our artists and curators, that I can talk to, from time to time, and they're supportive and they encourage me. And also, going back to the social media thing, there are a lot of people that I hadn't even met before that are just, so supportive, and I feel like, they're my friend, even though we haven't met, but now that I've been trying to, take my show to different places and I've been able to meet more of those people, in each city. It's like, oh, like, hey, like we talk on Instagram or whatever, and like now we're meeting face to face, So, but yeah, I do try to somewhat surround myself by other creatives and people that like art, but it may not be as immediate, all the time. But I'm trying to work on that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's a work in progress, but also if you have the tools to feel safe and like in your space and with yourself, and then again, you have like the social media that it's a nice barrier where there's some distance and at the same time some control that works. But I do like I can see how probably you're not having this crazy interactions and group hugs, but you do get the energy and the inspiration from people that we know, and this community that it's so rich and lovely and supportive. Are you having any conversations that are like allowing you to move through this through these days? Like, are you reading some books or having any meaningful new ideas that helps you navigate?
Honestly, I'm still working on that. I mean, not really. I mean, when the quarantine thing first happened, like for me, it was pretty much, as far as like outside contact and all that, was pretty much just completely, I had pretty much just gone dark. Like I was off of social media, pretty much, completely like no contact with anyone. But I think as we're sort of adjusting to this, like this is how life is now. I'm chatting with some of my creative friends a bit more, even if it's through text and stuff like that. And I think just for me, it's just helpful just being in the studio and just getting my hands on stuff, even if it's just starting really small, which I'm doing, like just really just the bare minimum, but just I think just creating and planning my next things, that's been helping me, like mentally, for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, if you guys don't mind, or of course you don't mind, can you just please, we're open to questions officially. If anyone wants to ask anything to Dawn, I would love to hear more about your colors and the application of gold. But yeah, if someone has any questions for Dawn, please put it in the chat. Fabian says, thank you for the Essentials Creative shout out and being on the Mask show. Love the rage painting. Thanks for the chat. Thank you, Fabian.
Yeah, they've been really supportive. I really I got to see their studio a while back when I was dropping off my mask, and it's like just wow, like I just saw like just so much cool stuff going on with like beading and all that. So I just felt really inspired by that. So yeah, thank y'all for including me in your project. So I really like working with y'all.
So yeah, okay. I think you communicate super well. People are just people, says Jane. But sorry, I cannot pronounce your last name.
What did she say?
I think you communicate super well. People are just people, but that's Jane, and she commented in our chat.
I mean, I think now I'm able to communicate, but this is just like this 1 hour. But as far as like life in general, like it's hard to keep it up. It's hard for me to seem sane for longer than an hour.
Come on. Okay, Taylor Ward says, thank you for doing this. Love your artwork. Do you ever get imposter syndrome? If so, how do you overcome this? Also, would love to know, what do you consider to be a moment when you failed at something, and how did you get over this?
Yeah, I mean, imposter syndrome, I mean, that's been huge for me, like since the beginning. I mean, part of it was, well, okay, I mentioned that I didn't, from high school, I didn't really know how to be an artist. Like, I didn't know what that meant. I took art classes, but I didn't know what you can do. And my parents were like, well, you need to be a doctor or a lawyer or something. Like, art's a cool hobby, but that's about it. And so I just didn't know, like, I'd heard of like, Picasso and Andy Warhol and this and that, but I didn't know what I could do as an artist. I just didn't know. So I studied other things, but then even after I, gotten a couple of degrees, I knew I wanted to be an artist. But by that time, like I wasn't in a position to go get an MFA or something like that. And I feel like that really contributed to the imposter syndrome. And people have made certain comments that like, oh, well, that's cute, but let me know when you get your MFA or whatever, And so I just felt like, oh, like I can't apply for that, or I can't do this and that because I'm not good enough, or I'm not deserving, or this and that. But it's taken years to just get to this point where I'm okay with like just doing stuff and trying to put it out there. So it's just a constant work in progress. As far as like a time that I failed at something, I'm trying to think of an example of that. I mean, one example would be, and this, the imposter syndrome contributes to that, but just one example might be just I may miss a deadline on applying for something, or just, like I mean to, but then I just don't do it, because deep down it's like, I think, oh, they're not going to consider me for that. But then, encouragement from other artists and friends has helped a lot. And then I'll apply. And of course, the rejection is there constantly. but sometimes like I may have missed a deadline, you know, but then the next year comes around, I apply and then I get the thing, whatever it is. So it's just constantly working on myself. It's definitely not easy.
That's the only way to do it. Okay, Julia Neal asks, what are you presently reading these days and how are they affecting your current practice or business strategies as an artist?
What right at this present time, I'm not reading anything, but I should. Which book was it? Where is it at? There was an Angela Davis book that I just ordered from Amazon, and I can't find it. I can't remember the name, but it came out in 1980. But that's something that I plan on cracking open and reading. And I plan on just, you know, reading some more poetry, but I haven't been as much as I need to. But I definitely need to make more time for that.
Thank you. Andrea Millard asks, can you talk about the power of representation in your portraits that often spotlight Black beauty, brilliance, and creativity? Do you have, or you thought of your portraits in terms of Renaissance or Revolution, especially recently?
I would say maybe, you know, like so much has happened, like, you know, just, yeah, during this time, there was, you know, yeah, the current, like COVID-19 and then like the death of George Floyd, which has kind of sparked, like, you know, just this whole, I guess like it's reignited, like, I guess a call for social justice. And so it's hard not to be impacted by that. So I'm not sure if maybe with my new work, if some of that, you know, may show through. But for me, when I paint the portraits of people, it's just important that I show the people, you know, standing in full agency of themselves, like especially like for like the punk noir type portraits where it's really trying to tell that person's story. So, you know, for me, I think maybe that could be like sort of a revolutionary act in itself, just letting that person just stand there and be, you know, who they are.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's such an impactful work, and with the intention and the narrative like that makes it a whole new deal. But just looking, if you don't want to think about it and you just see this portrait of larger than life people, like this power poses and awesome like wardrobe and the colors, yeah, I do believe that you're making like a huge impact and a statement with those pieces, and I'm so glad you do that. Leila Bueno asks, do you have any advice for a recent BFA graduate? I'm struggling trying to find a way to get involved in the art community online. My residency was unfortunately put on hold. Any advice on how to keep moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and I guess thank goodness with this time that we're in, like, I mean, you can do so much with, you can just do so much online. You know, you'll just really just make kind of have your own residency, just make the work, decide, you know, have a plan for what you want to, you know, convey and put out there, and just, you know, make a set of work, and, you know, have your own, you know, online art show or something. That you would just need to promote it a lot through social media, you know, and for that you can just kind of look at, you know, what things are you drawn to when it comes to social media, and that's probably what would work for promoting your stuff. So I would say I mean, I hate to say, use, I guess like Nike took it as a slogan, but I mean, I really just say like just do it, you know, just do it, put it out there. And as far as building a community through social media, you know, you do need to interact with people a bit, and yeah, just put it out there, you know, and just see what happens.
Yeah, and that note, like, can you tell us about that first show that you just organized yourself? Like, did you just said like, okay, this is happening?
I mean, at that time, I knew nothing about what it meant to be an artist. And in some ways it was that naivety was, it was kind of refreshing, you know, because I feel like as I learned more, it started to really get myself more in my head where I was like, oh no, like maybe I'm not doing what's expected or what I should do. But at that time I knew nothing. And so I was just like, I'm just gonna have an art show. So I used this place called, oh, what was the name? I think it may have been called Red Gate Studios or Iron Gate Studios or something. It was like on East 5th Street near the railroad track. And it was just this, it was an artist run space, and then you could pay a little bit of money to have like a one-day show if you wanted to. And so I just did it, and like the show was called Muse, and it was colorful paintings inspired by fashion and Andy Warhol stuff. And like I put an ad in the Chronicle, promoted it on MySpace, you know, back then, and it just something that I wanted to do. And part of the money raised went to a nonprofit that supported children with autism, because I have a little brother that has autism, and so yeah, I just decided I was going to do it, and then just carried it through and just did it. And so that, you know, it was fun, you know, so that's what I did.
Yeah, and something to put out in your bio, and like no one has to know.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. Any other questions? It's almost 10, so I think we'll let you go. But thank you so much for your time. We're so excited about the future with your projects, and can't wait to see Punk Noir traveling the world again. But yeah, thank you for your time. Thank you all for joining us. Next week we have Xavier Sipani, so join us at 11 a.m. on Thursday next week. But yeah, it's been lovely to talk to you. We'll leave you to your cocoon now.
Right.
Have a good day.